The Hendriksdal Pass is located just to the south of Sabi on the tarred R37 route which connects the little town with Nelspruit, today called Mbombela. The pass is fairly long at 9.5 kilometers and presents an altitude variance of 218 meters via 22 bends, corners and curves, most of which have a fairly easy radius. The pass is named after the original farm in the area, which later also gave its name to a railway station dating back to the 1920s. The road is in a good condition, unlike many of the other roads in this area, and presents very few hazards, providing that the speed limits are adhered to. The pass offers up magnificent elevated views of Sabi itself, as well as the mountains and plantations which abound in the area. We filmed this pass from north to south. Starting off at the intersection with the R532, the road bends sharply to the left through 90 degrees, bounded on either side by steep cuttings. It curves slightly back to the right, then straightens out for 600 meters, with the heading now towards the northeast. This is followed by a big looping turn through 160 degrees to the right, but this corner has a very wide radius and could not really be called a hairpin bend. Just as the road straightens up again, there's a lay-by on the left-hand side with ample space to pull off to park. A stop here is well worthwhile, as it offers up beautiful views over the town of Sabi away in the distance and a magnificent vista towards the east over the Sabi River Valley. The road now climbs slowly as it twists and turns to follow a natural contour line along the mountainside with steep cliffs on the right-hand side. Pine plantations line the route, and there are some spectacular examples of the kippersol or cabbage tree growing on the verges. The gradient is fairly even through this section, but kicks up again quite sharply just before you approach the summit, which is reached at the 4-kilometer mark. The start of the descent opens up a stunning view towards the south, with the hills and valleys covered with pine plantations everywhere you look. The buildings which make up the Hendriksdal station complex are visible amongst the trees far below you and diagonally on the left. Sabi is surrounded by one of the largest man-made forests in the world. How this came about can be traced right back to 1871, when during a hunting expedition led by Henry Thomas Glynn, a stray bullet chipped a rock and revealed a rich gold reef. This started a gold rush into the area, and soon many of the indigenous forests were decimated to supply firewood and later mine props. Fortunately, a far-sighted man named Joseph Brooke Shires realized the necessity for commercial plantations, and in 1876 the first trees in the area were planted. Today, South Africa has tree plantations covering more than 1.5 million hectares, representing 1.2% of the total land area. On average, 360,000 trees are planted every working day, which is more than 90 million each year. One of the largest forested regions is of course in the Mpumalanga province. The forestry industry contributes 8.7% of the gross value of the country's agricultural output. The plantation forests of South Africa use 3% of the country's total water resource. The rainfall needs to be higher than 750 millimeters to sustain commercial forestry. At the 8-kilometer mark, there's an intersection on the left which will take you to the old Hendriksdal station. The defunct buildings were converted into a restaurant and guest house a few years ago, which then became a world-famous destination known as the Artist's Cafe. After the intersection, the road bends gently towards the right and passes down a long straight which underpasses the old railway line, and then the pass ends at the 9.5-kilometer mark. Continues straight onwards in a southerly direction to eventually reach the outskirts of Nelspruit, about 40 kilometers from this point.